What's up, everybody? Sorry I missed last night, and I guess technically I'm missing this night as well, since this is sort of a recording. It's not sort of a recording, it is a recording. That's how cameras work. I decided to take a couple of days off, but I wanted to make sure that I was still, putting out some story time. Plus, this actually does help me. And when it's like 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep, and it's really like practically too late to be worthwhile to do a live episode, it's still productive for me to do it. So this is like one part indulgent, but another part selfless. So you do the math on how that works out on who benefits the most. I've been reading from Richard Kadrey's Sandman Slim, which is you ever watched Supernatural, or you watched Keanu Reeves in Constantine. It's a supernatural horror anti-hero kind of thing, and it's very comedic and noirish and fun. So I really enjoy it. This is a book that I used to hand sell a lot when I was a bookseller. The idea here is that Sandman Slim, James Stark, he was sent to hell by his friends in a power grab, and he was there for 11 years, and he finally has clawed his way out and is back in LA looking for revenge. And he's got some magical powers along with him and a devil may care attitude, which maybe is the title of one of the later books. Richard Kadrey's been writing these for about 11 years now, and so he's about 10 books into the series. So if you enjoy what you're hearing, all of the books are available for purchase. I guess the only other thing that I would say before I get started is, the idea for this is not so much to be interactive, but to have sort of something on in the background if you're having a hard time going to sleep. So, if you were to drift off in the middle of this while I was doing it, I think that would be just as much a success as you being interested from beginning to end. These are pretty stressful times for everybody, and on nights like this where my anxiety is keeping me up and I'm having a hard time sleeping, this helps take my mind off of it, and maybe it'll help take your mind off of it too. So with that said, we'll get into Richard Kadrey's Sandman Slim, up to page, what are we now? Up to page 70 now. All right, so let's see how we go. I sit on the edge of a bed wanting a cigarette, but unable to summon the will to go out and find a store that's still open. The bullets in my chest ache, almost like someone shot them in there. I think one of the slugs is scraping against a rib. I get up and scrounge around the room, moving furniture, opening cabinets, and digging through piles of empty DVD cases. Finally, at the bottom of a box filled with mangled porn tapes, I don't even want to think about how they got that way, I find a bottle of cheap, no-name vodka in a plastic screw-top bottle. In high school, we called drinks like this Devil's Rain after an old horror movie. That strikes me as pretty funny under the circumstances. I screw off the top and take a drink. The vodka burns my throat and tastes like Windex and battery acid. I can't believe that some small, ridiculous part of me feels kind of sorry for a pig like Kasabian. To spend your whole life brown-nosing and riding on the coattails of smarter and more talented magicians than having them dump you like the prom date who wouldn't put out right as they become infused with who knows what kind of power has to sting. It has to be the final confirmation of all your worst fears that you really are the chump you always were afraid you might be. I, on the other hand, was exactly the prick Kasabian said I was. While he was struggling with kindergarten levitations and Mason was compulsively showing off some new spirit conjuration or fire blast, I bullshitted my way through magic the way I bullshitted my way through everything else. Pretty well. Magic was always really easy for me. At my 5th birthday party, I floated the family cat over to Tiffany Brown, a redhead I had a crush on, and dropped it on her. Tiffany didn't get the joke, and that was the end of my first romance. When I was 12, the teacher had us make clay animals in art class. I squeezed together some fat little birds, then I made them fly around the room and out the window. I got suspended for a week for that one, though no one could explain to me exactly why. I didn't even know I was doing magic back then. All I did know was that I could do funny tricks and make the other kids laugh. My family never talked about it, but they knew what I could do. I was dangerous when I got sick. I'd break windows with a look. My fever started fires. I only learned that what I was doing had a name when my father gave me an old leather-bound book titled A Concise History and Outline of the Magical Arts. I knew right away what I was. Not a warlock or a wizard. That was Disney stuff to me. I was a magician. A few years later, I found out there were other magicians, and some invited me into their tight little circle. Then they tried to kill me. Sitting on Kasabian's bed, drinking his lousy vodka, I can picture Jane Ann, Cherry, Parker, and Mason sitting high above the city in one of those houses that hangs over the side of a hill on spindly spider legs, daring the earth to throw an earthquake their way. Each of them knows they'll survive, even without magic, they'll survive, because that's their greatest talent. And soon they'll be up on another hill, looking down on us losers. They're strong, and we're weak because we won't do the things they did to get up to the top of the hill. And they're right, of course. We won't crawl through the shit and over the bones and bodies of the dead. By their definition of the word, we really are weak, no matter how much we'd like to imagine ourselves being as cold and hard and determined as they are. On the other hand, it might be fun to crawl up the hill one night and strap some dynamite to the spider legs holding up their houses. We'd jump on the roofs like kids, jumping on sleds in the snow, and ride down the hill until their bright, candy-colored mansions crashed into the sea. Between the bullets in my chest and the talk with Kasabian, sleeping isn't going to be easy tonight. Kasabian's vodka is pretty much poison, but it'll quiet the noise in my head, and that's good enough. When I finally drift off into alcohol dreamland, I'm back in hell, lying in the dirt on the floor of the arena. My belly is slashed open. I'm holding my innards in with my hands. The beast I've been fighting, a silver bull-like thing with a dozen razor-sharp horns, is lying dead a few yards away. They always had me fighting weird animals. I didn't know for a long time that it was another Hellion insult. They made me a bestiary. It was a Roman thing, a fun way to use their dumbest, gimpiest, most cross-eyed fighters. Bestiary weren't good enough to fight people, so they fought animals. Why waste a human gladiator on someone who had just as good a chance of cutting off his own leg as stabbing his opponent? Plus, it was fun watching bears eat idiots. It still is, really. A couple of Hellion arena slaves roll me onto a stretcher and take me backstage. In the fighters' quarters, a wizened old Hellion gladiator trainer shuffles over and hands me a bottle of Aqua Regia. That's medical care in hell. A hospital in a bottle. Later, the same old Hellion comes by with a needle and werewolf hair thread and sews me up. Later that night, Azazel, my master, sends for me. Fresh wounds or not, when he calls, you go. At least he's reasonable enough to send a couple of burly damn souls to carry me to his palace in a litter. None of the places in hell come close to Lucifer's in size or beauty. Lucifer lives at the top of a literal ivory tower, miles high. You can't even see the top from the ground. The joke is that he built it that high so he can lean out the window and pound on heaven's floor with a broom handle when he wants them to turn down the choir. Lucifer's 4 favorite generals have their own palaces. Azazel is Lucifer's 2nd favorite general, so his palace is second only to Beelzebub's in size and beauty. Beelzebub is Lucifer's favorite general. While Azazel's palace is made entirely of flowing water, Beelzebub's is mud and dung bricks covered in human bones. Not what you call pretty, but it makes a statement. Inside Azazel's palace, it's all Gothic arches and stained glass, laid out in classic cathedral style. A carpeted nave leads to an altar at the far end where a mammoth clockwork Christ buggers the Virgin Mary every hour on the hour. You're going to use those arena skills of yours to kill Beelzebub for me, says Azazel. Don't I rate a night off? I'm held together with silly string and good wishes. He smiles, showing his 100-pointed teeth. Perfect. Then no one will suspect you. More importantly, they won't suspect me. He hands me something, a sharpened piece of spiral-cut metal like a long ice pick. I've seen it before. It's General Belial's favorite weapon. Leave that behind. But be sure to dip it in Beelzebub's blood first. He pauses. And wear gloves. I don't want your human taint all over it. They have to think that Belial did it. Beelzebub's palace is a fucking fortress with about 10 times more troops and guard animals than you have. And he knows I work for you. His guards will never let me get near him. Azazel shows me his teeth again. He likes doing that. It used to make him It used to make me want to pee my pants. Now, it's just a ritual, like a dog biting another dog's throat to remind it who's the alpha. Azazel reaches into his robes, made of shimmering golden water, and pulls out a heavy brass key. Have you ever heard of the Room of 13 Doors? He asks. This key will take you there. The room leads to anywhere and everywhere in the universe simultaneously, including Beelzebub's bedroom. He hands me the key. It's heavier than it looks and weirdly soft. I realize that it's not made of brass after all. It's living skin over bones. In 1 hour, you'll enter the Room of 13 Doors through a shadow behind this altar. From the room, you'll go through the door of fire. That's a killing portal. It will take you right to your prey. Once you've killed Beelzebub, leave Belial's weapon and return here. I turn over the key in my hands. I should be horrified by it, but I'm not. There's something animal-like about the key, like it's a pet that wants to please its master. You're thinking that I've given you your means to escape, aren't you? Azazel asks. Me? I love it here, boss. Why would I ever want to escape? He touches the edge of the key with a fingertip. Lucifer can leave hell and travel easily through the cosmos, while the rest of us are bound here, cursed by the heavenly enemy. I've found a way out. Not for me, but for someone like you. However, you should remember not to go too far. Though I can't leave hell, I have some influence in your world among those humans dedicated to hell. Cross me, try to escape from me, and something awful will happen to the one you love. That pretty girl you left behind? Do you understand? I understand. You're not leaving here. Someday, maybe, but not right now, and not for a good long time. Azazel turns and starts away. Keep the key next to your body. That way, it will know to open the room to you. Wait an hour before you go. I need to be somewhere public when it happens. An obedient little slave, I do as my master tells me. I wait an hour and slip into a shadow behind the altar. Passing into that utter blackness feels like falling through cool air. I find myself in a semicircular room that, surprise, contains 13 doors. Each door seems to be made from a different material. Wood, water, air, stone, metal. More abstract things, too. The door of dreams moves and writhes, reshaping itself from second to second. There's a sound from the far side of the room. I go to the only unmarked door and listen. There's something moving behind the door, and it knows I'm here. Something growls and scratches to get at me. Then there's a shriek, a long, keening, furious animal sound that hits me like a knife dragged through my skull. Right then and there, I know I'm going to do whatever Azazel wants and kill any damned hellion he tells me to. I'll be his servant as long as he leaves Alice alone and never, ever asks me to go through the unmarked door. I wake up with the taste of hell in the back of my throat. I know it's just the bad vodka, but that doesn't help. My head is full of monsters, and I'm one of them. I sit up, smelling sulfur, and I want to kill something. I want a hellion to burst through the window so I can take this bone knife and cut out its black heart. There are so many questions left. It feels like I've been doing nothing but talking since I got back. I need to do something. I need to hurt something. I need to kill Azazel. But I've already killed him. I'm afraid. I'm so fucking afraid. I don't know what's worse, hell or this stupid world where I'll never be at home. But I need to keep talking to people. I need to keep asking the right questions. And I've already missed maybe the most important question of all. I roll out of bed and slam the closet open, nearly tearing the door off its hinges. Kasabian lets out a yelp and turns his eyes up at me. I pick up his head in both hands and hold him so that we're eye to eye. I have one question for you, and I swear to God and the devil and everything holy and unholy that if you fuck me around for even 1 second, I will drop you in the ocean right now. Do you understand? Yeah. He barely whispers the word. Where's Alice's body? I don't know. Don't lie to me. I swear I don't know. Jesus, even I'm not that fucked up. Parker would know. He killed her. Parker's the one that can tell you. There's real terror in Kasabian's eyes. I'm still holding him up, squeezing him tighter than I thought. His cheeks are red and starting to bruise. I set him back on the shelf and lean against the wall. Kasabian stares at me like he's never seen me before. Like, what are you, man? Hypoglycemic or something? Go eat a muffin for shit's sake. I'll buy some cigarettes later, I tell him, and close the closet door. At least I got to ask the big question, but I'm not any less agitated. Kasabian was telling the truth a minute ago. I could see in his mind that he would have made something up if he could have thought of a convincing enough lie. That means I can't find Alice's body until I track down Parker. I'm still so wound up from having hell in my head all night that I need to break something, and soon. I hate it when I get this way. Do they have anger management classes for hitmen? Allegra's voice comes from downstairs. I didn't hear her come in. She's talking into her BlackBerry. I look around for a clean shirt and realize that I forgot to buy some yesterday. I steal another Max Overdrive shirt from the box and go downstairs quietly. I'm not in the mood for this, but I need to do something now so that I don't have to do something worse later. Allegra is still on the phone and has her back to me. She doesn't hear me come up behind her. When she turns around and sees me, she jumps a little. Jesus, you're quiet, she says. Then into her BlackBerry. No, not you. Let me call you back. She takes off her coat, stashes it behind the counter, and begins setting up the money and register for the day. I thought you were upstairs. I heard noise. I had a movie on. Dust Devil. You ever see it? Isn't that a horror flick? Sort of a horror movie crossed with a spaghetti western. You ought to take a look. The girl character dumps her boyfriend and then spends the rest of the movie trying to get away from a ghost world killer who's sort of in love with her. She runs, but she's no coward. She fights back, stays brave. You'd like her. Thanks, I'll have a look. She gives me a distracted smile. Listen, I'm sorry if I said anything stupid last night. I haven't been in the city in a long time. I grew up here, but it might as well be the dark side of the moon. I feel that way sometimes, too. There's something else you're wondering about. You're wondering if I'm an ex-con. The answer is yes. Oh. She busies herself breaking open rolls of coins and putting the change in the register. I only wondered because of, the scars. Would it help if I told you that I didn't go away because of something I did, but because of something someone else wanted? Are you, on parole? It's more of a work release kind of thing. If things work out, I won't be going back at all. I had a boyfriend who did time. A dealer, right? She looked up at me, her expression shifting from interest to suspicion. How did you know that? A long time ago, I had a girlfriend named Alice. Your eyes are like hers when I first met her. There's this funny thing that happens to girls' eyes when they've been in love with a dealer. It's a real particular look, more than not trusting people. It's like you're trying to figure out if they're the same species as you, like they might be a snake in a people mask. She's still looking at me, sizing me up, and trying to classify me as animal, vegetable, or mineral. Can we maybe change the subject? Sure. I just wanted you to know the truth. I'm not a snake. I'm just a person, like you. She turns a key on the register, clearing yesterday's transactions and getting ready for today's. But it's not the whole truth, though, is it? You're not like Michael was, but there's still a little bit of the snake thing going on behind your eyes. What do you expect? I'm from L.A. She laughs. I can hear her breathing steady, her heart slow. Her fear doesn't disappear. She's too smart and wary for that, but she's not going to call the cops or stab me in my sleep, and what more can you ask of a pretty girl? I start upstairs, but turn back to Allegra. Hey, what day is it? Thursday. It'll be New Year's in a few days. We should get some champagne, for the store, and those popper things, too. They look like little bottles. Take some money out of the till and go buy whatever you think is fun. How much can I spend? Buy whatever you want. Hey, those were nice leathers you had on yesterday. Do you have a motorcycle? I might just pick one up today. When I was downtown, Galena, one of Azazel's vampire drinking buddies, liked to regale me with stories about what it's like to hunt humans. She would go into exquisite detail, mostly to spoil my dinner, sometimes to screw me up before a fight in the arena. She had a gambling problem. Galena told me that most vampires work hard to keep a low profile. They dress, act, and often get jobs like regular people. Most vampires only feed once a month at the new moon. A month is the longest vampires can go without fresh blood, unless they don't mind shriveling to something that looks like 100-year-old beef jerky. There are the other vampires, too, the kind they make movies about. Mad Dog, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, psycho killers. They hunt every night, just for the sheer meat market thrill of it. The craziest ones don't even wait for night. They hunt during the day. Streaking from shadow to shadow, they snatch people right off the street and feed on them behind dumpsters or in crack houses next to the other addicts. These vampires hunt for kicks, but not for fun. They hunt for rage. They hunt because something inside of them is broken, and no matter how much new blood they fill their bellies with, it turns to fire in their veins. They hunt and kill because they need to, because if they didn't, they'd tear their own heads off. Just like any fix, the calm that comes from the kill doesn't last long. But for a few minutes, or maybe an hour, the fire fades to a single glowing ember, and they're at peace until they need to hunt again. If I learned anything downtown, it's this. I'm not a vampire, but I am a junkie, and every junkie needs a fix. A delivery van is pulling away from the curb outside at the Bamboo House of Dolls. I go in and see stacks of whiskey in boxes, steel beer kegs, and Carlos by the bar, flanked by 3 lanky skinheads. One is in a bomber jacket, one is in a t-shirt of some black metal band, and the third, a huge skinhead, is in a German military officer's coat. Bomber jacket jerks his head towards me. We're closed. Just a quick one, sweetheart, I say, so I know you love me. Bomber jacket pulls out. Can you fucking believe this guy? A Luger pistol. Like he thinks he's Rommel. Quicker than he can react, I scoop up one of the beer kegs and underhand it at him. It slams into his chest and knocks him across the room. The Luger flies out of his hands and lands on the floor somewhere near the bar. The shaved ape in the officer's coat starts across the room at me while the black metal skinhead pulls an impressive shank from his boot. Just to make things fun, I go straight for the one with the knife. This confuses the ape, who turns just as I reach his pal, whose arm is straight out trying to pig stick me. It's been a long time since I've gone up against a human, so I don't know if I'm really fast or if these geniuses are really slow, but I slip past the skinhead's blade and pop him in the elbow, hyperextending the joint just enough to hurt, but not to snap. While little birdies are still flying around his head, I grab his arm and do-si-do him around, swinging him into the ape just as he comes up behind me. But the ape is too huge to go down. He staggers back a step, then lunges at me, faster than I expected. Fast enough to get a hold of my jacket, throw a fist as hard as a tire iron into my jaw. I don't want to get into a real fight with this guy because I'm more interested in his partner with the knife. When he loads up for another John Wayne punch, I grab one of the squat, bottom-heavy glass candles off the bar and smash it into the side of his head. That sends him staggering back to the opposite wall, where he slides down like a pile of bloody laundry. The guy with the knife is back on me. He has just enough brains to know not to try to stab me straight on, so he's going for a slashing attack. His arm blurs back and forth, then down, then up, trying to catch me off guard and bleed me. I parry his blows, letting one land on my forearm or shoulder occasionally. This is what I've wanted. A real chance to test the Kevlar armor in this jacket. He's working up a pretty nice sweat, coming at me with all he's got. Still, he's easy to dance around, easy to block. His face is contorted and frantic with anger. As long as I let him get a shot in every now and then, I bet he'll keep coming until he dies of old age or maybe a stroke. The guy I hit with the beer keg hasn't moved, but the ape is getting back to his feet. Time to wrap things up. As the black metal skinhead slashes down at my head, I reach up with my right hand and grab the knife. There's a familiar ache, like electricity and heat, as the blade slices deep into my palm. I slam the heel of my left hand up under his jaw, staggering him, then twist my right hand, snapping the blade cleanly off his knife. As the ape rushes me, I go low and shove the broken blade deep into his thigh. He howls in pain and falls against the bar. Damn, it feels great to hurt idiots. None of the skinheads is getting up for a minute, so I look around for the Luger. Carlos is behind the bar, frozen in place, like he's not sure if he's more afraid of me or the Nazis on the floor. I spot the gun under a stool at the end of the bar and kneel to get it. Good thing, too. A blue-white ball of plasma misses me by a few millimeters and explodes against the far wall. I wheel around and see him. It occurs to me that I might have been having a little too much fun before. I hadn't thought to check if there was another skinhead in the storeroom. I snatched the Luger from under the stool, but it doesn't help because the new skinhead does something a lot more interesting. He holds up his right hand. There's something with the glowing end, gnarled, like a short tree branch. It extends from his hand and wraps around his forearm to his elbow. It's a piece of devil daisy. I don't know the real name. Devil daisy is just what I called them. I haven't seen one in a long time, and that was in the arena. That's all I get to think before he blasts the tongue of blue-white dragonfire at me. I'm still afraid to use magic. All I can do is dive to my left, rolling over some tables and chairs and landing on the floor. The second shot goes wide, as does his third. Still, I feel the heat and skin-crawling static as each shot streaks by. This is some powerful magic the skinhead is packing, but It's obvious from the way he's waving the branch around that he doesn't fully understand what it is or how to use it beyond a dim aim and pray strategy. My theory that he's not in control of the weapon is confirmed when the ape yells something and the guy with the devil daisy turns and almost blows his own foot off. It's the Three Stooges with death rays over there. The one I took the Luger from yells, "Asshole!" He gets to his feet, and he and the ape, limping with the knife still in his leg, get the skinhead I hit with the keg between them and drag him out the door. The one with the daisy backs out of the place, holding the branch out like he's covering himself with a gun. "What the fuck was that?" yells Carlo. That Nazi asshole must have had a flare gun, I lie. I walk over, drop the Luger on the bar, and push it to Carlos. "Merry Christmas. Don't say I never gave you anything." What am I supposed to do with that? I don't know. Put it up next to the tiki dolls. I don't like guns. Is it loaded? I pop the clip out and check it and slide it back in. Yeah. Keep it behind the bar. Those guys are going to come back. Not tonight, but sometime soon. You think so? Definitely. I still don't want it, he says, and pushes the Luger toward me. I flick on the safety and shove it into my jacket pocket. Carlos nods towards me. "You're bleeding," he says, and hands me a clean bar towel. I wrap around the hand I used to grab the skinhead's knife. The hand still hurts, but it'll stop bleeding by the time I walk outside. Carlos leans on the bar. "So what are you? Special forces? Some kind of ninja?" "Yeah, I'm the ghost of Bruce Lee. You got a cigarette?" Carlos shakes his head. The moment is still burning bright for him, but it's over for me. The rage has gone south, and now I have a bigger problem. No question I was shot at by a magic weapon, but it was used by someone who had no idea what he was doing. I consider the possibility that Mason sent the skinheads, not to shake down Carlos, but to ambush me. Only that doesn't make any sense. If Mason decides to send a hit squad for me, he'll make sure they know exactly what weapons they're packing and how they work. So what devil Kris Kringle is handing out death rays to pinheads? "Can I borrow your phone?" I ask. Carlos hands it to me, and I dial the number of my old apartment. Vidoc picks up. 30 minutes later, Vidoc and I are sitting in a donut shop on Sunset, drinking coffee and eating. He's paying. I'm close to tapped out. At least I spent Brad Pitt's money well. Before Vidoc got to Donut Universe, I'd examined the motocross jacket for damage. The Kevlar did a pretty good job. None of the knife slashes made it through the armor down to me. All the damage was to the leather, and I could fix that with gaffer tape. "I've heard of powerful amulets like guns, but not like the one you described," says Vidoc. "But I think I know someone who will. I'll introduce you soon." The Frenchman puts a paper bag on the table. I take a bite of my Bavarian cream. "What's that?" "Look for yourself," he says, and pushes the bag at me. I open it and look inside. It's full of shirts. "They're yours. You look like a fucking child in those video store things. You should wear your own clothes. They will help you remember who you are." I roll down the top of the bag and put it on the seat beside me. I suppose I do look stupid in these shirts. In my head, I'm still 19. Time is stuck there, and it's like a punch in the balls every time I look in the mirror. At least no one will bother me for ID when I buy beer now. But I don't want to look at what's in the bag right away. Part of me wants to burn everything Alice and I left behind 11 years ago. Another part wants to leave it all right where it is, frozen in time like bugs trapped in amber. It never occurred to me to wear any of my old clothes again. There was something weird and familiar about that amulet, and I've been trying to remember what since I left the club. Donut Universe is a 24-hour place with an outer space theme. There's a big plastic UFO suspended from the ceiling over the display case. The girl working the counter is a green-haired pixie who looks somewhere between 12 and 35. She's wearing sequined antennae that bob up and down when she talks. The grown-up part of my brain imagines that she tears the stupid things off and tosses them in the backseat of her car the moment she's finished her shift. The 19-year-old in me wonders if she sometimes wears the antenna when she screws her boyfriend, and what it's like to look up and see her and those sequin balls bobbing up and down over you. There was this one time downtown when a couple of big horned hellions dragged me out of bed in the middle of the night. Azazel was my boss, but these two worked for Mephistopheles, the general with the fire palace, Lucifer's third favorite general. His boys took me to the arena. It was after hours, but there were a couple dozen hellion posh types in the stands. They wanted a private show starring the living boy, which I knew I meant that I was about to get my ass kicked. My favorite weapon, a gnat, was on the ground. A gnat is sort of like a spear, but it morphs and changes into a lot more than a spear if you know how to use it right. Like everything else down there, the name is a hellion joke. They call a gnat a thorn because its full name, Natzutz, is the kind of bush they used to make Christ's crown of, they used to make Christ's crown of thorns. Across the arena for me was something all draped in black. When it came closer, I saw it wasn't dressed in black. It was black, nothing but black. It was like a hole punched in the world, and it kept shifting and changing shape, like a sheet on a clothesline on a windy day. It just stood there, so I went for it. I threw a few feints trying to draw it into a fight, but it didn't move. It didn't even turn when I moved around it. The gnat is a spear-shaped. When I took a quick, hard shot at the thing's head, the gnat went right through it, like it wasn't there. But when the thing raised its arm to push me away, it was like getting hit by a dump truck. The gnat extends over 10 feet when you open it all the way, so when the thing came at me, I let the gnat out to its full length and swung it like a flail. It went right through the thing again. I wasn't about to let it lay into me again, so I did a Muhammad Ali and danced around the arena trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't know how to fight something I couldn't even touch. Then the black thing took something out of a pocket. What it held up was a lot like that amulet back at the bar, only it knew how to use it. First, it shot at my feet, kicking up dirt and blinding me. Then it shot circles all around me so I couldn't run. It could have burned me any time it wanted, but it was taking its time, playing for the Hellions, whooping it up in the good seats. After all those years and all that happened to me and all the things I'd killed, this laser-toting bathrobe was going to kill me. And I think it would have if Azazel hadn't stormed into the arena. He started screaming at Mephistopheles, and I thought the real fight was going to happen in the grandstands. Neither one of them was backing down, and some of Mephistopheles' buddies pulled out knives. A minute later, who strolls in but Lucifer? That shut everyone up damn quick. The thing you have to understand about Lucifer is that he hardly ever talks, and when he does, it's never much more than a whisper. When half the universe is hanging on to your every word, you don't have to shout. "This is over," he said. "Go home. Mephistopheles, come to my tower in the morning." And that was it. Those Hellion hotshots couldn't get out of there fast enough. Then he went to the black thing and said something to it. The black thing didn't move. This is Lucifer giving the thing an order, and it just stood there. How's that for titanium balls? A couple of minutes later, the thing walks away across the arena and vanishes like smoke. I'd only seen Lucifer a couple times, and I'd only spoken to him once, but here he came right up to me and told me to go home to bed and that none of this ever happened. "What do you think it means?" Vidocq asks. Well, that amulet got me thinking. Whatever had it must have been some colossal hard case because it tried to stare down Lucifer. Mephistopheles obviously knew the thing because it was his party, so what if Mephistopheles knows he can't win the war downtown and is recruiting some dark magic types to help him move up here to Earth? "I thought you had the only key that could allow them into this world." Well, that's where it all falls apart. Except for Lucifer, no one can get out of hell without the key, and I still have it. Vidocq sips his coffee and makes a face. "The shit you people drink." He slips a flask out of his coat and pours a good portion of the contents into the cup. The next sip of coffee makes him smile. "It sounds as if you need to find those little Nazi boys and make them tell you where they got their toys. That's the second thing I need to do. The first is getting into Mason's place. You want to come along? Breaking and entering? Now you are my friend again. I will show you how a good thief earns his daily bread. Sorry, man, there's no actual house to break into. It's just a basement, and that's buried under tons of dirt. But we can get in through the room." Vidocq shakes his head. "You use guns when you should use magic, and you use magic when you should let an old man pick a lock for you. You're a mixed-up boy, Monsieur Butler." "Please don't say my name." He holds up a hand by way of apology and reaches into his coat pocket. "Take this." "What is it?" "Someone you should meet, Dr. Kinski. He's an interesting man. He's used to dealing with people of our kind. You shouldn't walk around with those bullets in your belly. The lead is bad for you." "Thanks," I say. Put the number in my pocket. I'll give him a call. "So when are we paying a visit to your friend Mason?" "Tonight, late. I don't want anyone seeing us. We'll use the key to get in, but I want a car there too in case things get weird." Now you're thinking like a thief. Fewer guns, more exits. We'll cure your cowboy ways yet. He doesn't notice that I ditched the bag of shirts under the table when we leave. Yeah. I think that's probably a pretty good place to stop for today. So, if you're just coming in at the end of this, been reading from Richard Kadrey's Sandman Slim. I think I'll be back tomorrow night for another reading session, one way or the other. So, yeah, I guess that's really all for tonight. All right. Till tomorrow. Ugh.